Hello, folks, and welcome back to another episode of the Daily Crypto Byte. Today is Wednesday, November 24th. Tomorrow is Thanksgiving. Happy holidays to everyone. And because tomorrow is Thanksgiving, CJ and I will not be doing a Daily Crypto Byte. Today we'll be doing our Doge of the Day for the public, like we used to do in front of the paywall. So we'll be doing that at the end of today's episode. But we're seeing some substantial price action here. Bitcoin continuing to struggle a little bit, and that may be on the back of some, rather heavy news pieces that hit India, possibly banning crypto, reminiscent of that China news. Also, some news coming out of XRP, that lawsuit that's been going on for years now, starting to develop a little bit here. So we'll talk about that, as well as some other news pieces and some price action today. But before we dive into it, CJ, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Monty. Thank you. Hope everybody's having a good day today. It feels like a Friday because of Thanksgiving tomorrow and whatnot, but good time to be with your family, and good time to be thankful for everything in life. Also, in the crypto markets and how they've been rather favorable throughout the last few months. So, like our CEO Dirk always preaches, it's good to give back to those who are less fortunate. If you've made a good amount of money on some trades and things of that sort, always try to pay it forward. But yeah, I'm doing well, Monty. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Yeah, looking forward to seeing the family tomorrow, seeing my dog as well. It's been a while, so looking forward to that. Always nice. But yeah, hope you guys are all looking forward to your Thanksgiving, spending some time with your family, and yeah, being thankful because it's been a pretty good year, not just for crypto, but for the financial markets in general. So, but I think the best months are yet to come here, CJ. December historically been a very bullish month for Bitcoin, especially when we're at the end of a market cycle. So I want to look at some on-chain metrics today as well. Obviously, we have our member webinar at 11:30 today where we'll be answering any questions you guys have. So we'll go more in depth into some on-chain metrics then. But I definitely want to take a look at some metrics today and kind of give us possible justification for why we're seeing a little bit of a pullback here in Bitcoin. But without further ado, CJ, would you like to dive into some charts or some news pieces, wherever you'd like to start?
Yeah, I think we can start with some charts. I don't want to go fully in depth, but I do want to just highlight one thing that I had posted in chat last night. We are continually testing these lows here at 56K. And that news, I guess I'll start with being the main catalyst for price action this morning, is that the Indian government submits bill to ban most cryptocurrencies, dashing hopes for a friendlier measure. So there was a bill that had been, proposed a few months back, but the idea was that hopefully it would be modified for some more friendly measures for crypto. But that didn't happen. And as of now, it appears that the Indian government is really pushing out private cryptocurrencies or any type of decentralized cryptocurrency, ultimately so they can clear their way for the facilitation of a central bank-backed digital currency. And, the bill would also prohibit all private cryptocurrencies in India. However, they will probably look for certain exceptions so that they'll have certain blockchains who are, they're allied with, who can ultimately provide certain specific use cases that perhaps their central bank digital currency can't fulfill. But overall, that was really why we got the crash in price. Bitcoin fell more than 13% on one of the largest Indian Bitcoin exchanges after this bill was announced. So definitely the main catalyst for why price is down today. Second bit of news I want to go to, which might have some more broader ramifications, not immediately, but once this SEC case is eventually settled, I think it could lay the groundwork for a lot of other currencies, sort of like XRP. I almost said XLM because, I was thinking that's a fork of XRP, is a very similar project, and the day could face some similar regulatory hurdles. But overall, Brad Garlinghouse, the CEO of Ripple, said that they're making good progress in their legal feud with the SEC, and expects the case ultimately to reach a conclusion sometime next year. And so, for those who may not know, the SEC alleges that Ripple and its executives sold $1.3 billion worth of XRP in an unregistered securities offering. So, yeah, I mean, they did sell billions of dollars of XRP. They just have to determine, all right, was that considered a security? Was it fair? Was it deceptive to the investors? And that'll be an interesting play. I've always been interested in, maybe buying some XRP to speculate on a favorable outcome of that case. But I've never pulled the trigger just yet. I know there are some, I know people in that trade betting on a positive or favorable outcome, but I haven't done it just yet. I kind of want to, but I haven't pulled the trigger yet.
Yeah, XRP is a great example of an asset that, can be halted in its tracks by regulational uncertainty. But yeah, CJ, getting some clarity in that in the coming year here may finally provide direction for some price action for XRP. So we'll be watching that closely. Dan, the case is set to end sometime next year, according to Brad Garlinghouse. No set date as to when that case will end for sure, but yeah, hopefully sometime next year. But going back to that first piece of news, CJ, with India banning Bitcoin, we've seen news like this before, obviously reminiscent of the China news. And whenever you see this sort of news, it comes not as a measure of protecting their citizens, but rather a measure of protecting their own currency with their plans of releasing a central bank digital currency. It seems like India is going down a similar road here. What effect do you expect this to have on Bitcoin in the long term? Do you expect this to be kind of a drawn out effect, or do you expect that, the most that we've seen from this price action has already kind of been priced into the market here?
I think it has been absorbed in the short term, although we aren't seeing buyers step up like we did kind of last week, especially on the lows of those liquidations. But it is similar to China, but it's not in the terms of its impact on price. There was a massive amount of infrastructure, namely miners, that were governed in China and making the majority of their profits there. They had to, spend Bitcoin and sell to relocate. That's not necessarily the case in terms of the mining presence in India. Obviously, it's not a great effect. And if, crypto trading is banned in India, then it could lead to, some sell pressure. But overall, I think that shouldn't be the main driver of price. I think that bullish demand going forth in the next few months would be enough to absorb any type of sell pressure coming out of India as a result of that. Still, it's not great, specifically for the Indian people, because they won't have access to that. And, it's like you said, it's clearing the way for a central bank-backed digital currency, which is not a decentralized currency. It's nothing different than fiat, or really what we exist in already have. So,
Yeah, yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I think the majority of that news has already been priced in. I still think that right now, although there are news catalysts that are affecting price, in the long term, I think price is being dictated by on-chain metrics. I really want to dive into that a little bit later during our webinar today. But, I just want to pull up a few metrics here just to showcase. But I think that really, and I think Glassnode did a great job of explaining it in their report this week. But I think that right now we're seeing a profound effect by short-term holders on this market. And CJ, we always talk about the effect that long-term holders have in this market and how they kind of dictate the duration of market cycles. And when we see these long-term holders start to distribute, that's typically, the start of a bull market. And when we see peak distribution, that's the end or the top of the market cycle. But looking at short-term holders can give you insight into interim price action. And what we've been seeing over the last just couple of weeks here to couple of months has been very interesting, because long-term holders have not changed their outlook. Price has actually been largely driven by short-term holders. And this right here is the total supply held by short-term holders. And as you can see, we've seen a slight uptick here, implying that short-term holders have been accumulating since we bottomed here at about 40K just a few weeks back. And now what's interesting is we're seeing these same short-term holders distribute and drive price down. So this has essentially been like a sort of swing trade from this 40K to 68K by short-term holders. This is also supported by, Bitcoin spent volume age bands, which basically just looks at the age at which, we're seeing the Bitcoin spent. So every time a Bitcoin moves, it's reset. It becomes 1 day older. But for every day it's not spent, it gets assigned an age. So obviously you have coins that are 2 to 3 years old, up to 10 years old, not many of those left. But then you have these shorter term holders, which are defined as anything less than 150 days. So looking at 3 to 6 months, anything less than that is a good indication of short term holders. And as you can see, they kind of did use this opportunity as sort of a swing trade here. We saw them accumulate here during this market strength and then begin to distribute at the top here. And that has been a large factor in driving price down. Long-term holders really haven't changed their outlook. They're still accumulating, in fact, not really too much distribution at all. So when you see that, you have to look for what factors are driving price. Right now, it really does look like it's the short-term holders as we're seeing them distribute into this market strength. And that's kind of been the driving factor in moving price down to this 55K level. So, looking at these metrics, I think that the short-term holders, as well as these negative news catalysts, are really driving price right now. But my long-term outlook hasn't really changed all that much, given the fact that, the long-term holders are still looking strong, still accumulating. So I'm not really too concerned by either the news or this short-term profit taking that we're seeing here, CJ.
Thank you for that on-chain data. I'm looking forward to the webinar where you go a little bit more in depth in that later today. But I'll start off with the Doge of the day today. Pretty surprised by Sand's price action, up another 30% today. I mean, it's too bad Doc Sand isn't here. He was here yesterday, but I mean, it would have been even more astounding today. I mean, what a move in the metaverse plays. They were really been the only opportunity, or one of the primary opportunities, while Bitcoin and a lot of the layer ones remain stagnant and experience, profit taking. But something that I did share in chat last night was just a reaccumulation schematic and how we've been bouncing around in this channel and what will happen, not what will happen, but what could happen if we do rally from these lows. One thing that I think is important to take note of is the volume and the rate at which the volume can increase when we're testing these lows. So let me be more specific. These reaccumulation schematics, they are a general outline, but the volume profile and the match with the actual price action is a little bit more significant. And I'll be more specific as to what that means. But you can see this price action has followed the schematic relatively accurately. But overall, I think that when you look and try to match these schematics up with one another in volume, I think one of the most important things to look at in a reaccumulation is when volume at the lows and then it rallies from the lows. That's a signature of good demand and in an instance of supply absorption. And not only is this true in this example of Amazon from 2015, but it's also very true in Bitcoin here as well. Obviously, the news has not been a great catalyst. I think that bears are trying to really take out this support level, but they're not able to, even with this bad news occurring. But each test of these lows, where you have a nice spike in volume. It was very true back here as well. You can see that massive spike in volume and somewhat of a rally from those lows. And, that's what you want to see when you're looking for a reaccumulation structure or supply absorption in that sense. So it'll be interesting. Of course, this does not have to happen. It's just a general outline. But, if we are to get confirmation with a break and a surge back to this 62K level, I would take that as confirmation for a further run, potentially like similar to this into the 70,000s, come very late December or potentially even January. So it'll be interesting to see how this comes to fruition. But just something that I thought was kind of interesting and how it was lining up on the 4 hour. As for my Doge of the day, I'm going to go with Phantom because it's one of the only few that is actually uh, showing some strength off these lows. Yesterday had a really nice increase, but it was sold into pretty heavily. Um, Ideally, what I'd like to see now, I could see how some would call this, a bearish head and shoulders pattern. I do see the merit in that, but at the same time, I wouldn't enter right now. But if we can consolidate above this level, I would look for a push higher, because ultimately, this is a very critical resistance level on the way up. And, we tested it twice and then we back tested it another 2 times on the way down, after our peak. So if we can break above that level and flip it from previous resistance to new support, I would look for an increase back into the $3 territory for Phantom. Interesting stuff there, but I mean, wow.
Just does not stop, does it?
Yeah, no, it's in up only mode. Um, One way that sorry, Monty, let me just say one more thing, then I'll pass
Yeah,
it to you.
go ahead, take your time.
So one way that we like to trade these, um, and one way that it's easy to be disciplined, uh, and use one of these as a trailing stop, is that you can actually use the Bollinger Bands, and set them to a particular standard deviation based on the trend. So like last night, here, I'm going to try some cool stuff today.
Maybe during our webinar, CJ, you can go a little more in depth on this topic, because I think that looking and applying this trading strategy to an asset like AVAX can show how, if you use a Bollinger Band with a higher standard deviation, it probably would have been a sign to take profit sometime in the last 48 hours or so. But let's see what you're doing here with sand.
Okay, yeah. All right. I got the replay mode working now. So ultimately, this had a very volatile trend. And, I think something like AVAX, you probably could have fit to a 1 standard deviation Bollinger Band for a trailing stop. In this case with sand, I think it would have worked better with a 2 standard deviation. And I'll show you in real time, like how it keeps you in the trade. So in this instance, you would be back in the trade right here. You'd be back in at approximately $4. And you wouldn't look for an exit to this trade unless we got a close below the outer band, like what we saw kind of previously. And so this allows you to stay in the trade for a little bit longer, even up until last night. It's not really until we would get kind of a bearish engulfing candle closing below that level, which would ultimately get us out of the trade. So that was one thing last night that was cool, because I know a lot of you guys were talking about sand in the room, and those Bollinger Bands can really it can make it objective and take the emotion out of riding exponential trends, because it's very easy to get caught up in the gains like that, because it's pretty powerful what these markets are capable of at certain times. But
Oh yeah, absolutely. Anything you can do to remove the emotion, or kind of bring this objective nature to your trading, I think will help you in the long run, especially with these sort of euphoric markets that we're having right now. So thanks for that, CJ. That was some really good stuff. I will quickly add a few doges of the day here that I'm going to be watching. And it's kind of a similar premise to what you were talking about here, CJ. One of those is Matic. Um, Matic's interesting to me right now because one, it's at this critical level. As you can see, this level of $1.70 was a critical level all the way back here in June, again here in August, somewhat here as well in September, and now it's lining up pretty much with this smooth moving average. It's acting as support here, And what's interesting to me as well is we kind of have a breakout level at $1.80. So we're in this very tight range of support and resistance right now, which you can kind of see from this sort of candle formation that we're having here. Now, also yesterday, Matic had some really nice strength. I know some people in the room that are trading this were talking about Matic yesterday, making a very nice move, which I think is benefiting it very much today. Managed to get above those critical levels, get above that smooth moving average, which is now, like I said, acting as support for price. So, today we're seeing the entire market pretty much pull back with Bitcoin here. So it's definitely affecting Matic. But I think overall, what we're seeing in terms of technicals, in terms of this level, these levels that it's at right now, Matic was looking strong yesterday. I expect its strength to continue with a similar, vigor when Bitcoin starts to show some strength here as well. So Matic, I think, is definitely worth a look at these critical levels. And what's nice is that we have this clear support, a breakdown below this level. Uh, it's just a sign that the trend is hurt and that perhaps you should be exiting this trade or just waiting for a break back above it in order to get long. So Matic is one I'll be watching for a resume of strength tomorrow if we get some strength in Bitcoin. Now another one I want to look at real quick is Stormex. I've been looking at Stormex for the last couple of weeks here as we've been kind of forming this symmetrical triangle formation right around the 3 cent level here. Price has been kind of contracting around this level and kind of settling on this price over the last 2 or so months here for Stormex. And we're really approaching the apex of this symmetrical triangle quickly. Typically, when you get this sort of compression of price, it's followed by a breakout in either the positive or negative direction. So I'll be watching for that. Given the overall market conditions and what we're expecting with the crypto market cycle in general, you expect this to be a break to the upside. Also, just given what we see if you zoom out and look at this chart, this thing is an asset that looks very ready to pop. When it makes moves, it makes them very quickly. It made this move from less than a cent to almost 10 cents in what was really a matter of about 10 days of price action. If you look at these candles, is these 4 days here, we made a staggering move. And then, these 5 days here, we made another staggering move. So assets like Stormex move very quickly. And it looks like we're getting to a point after months of consolidation where this thing may be ready to make a move here. So I'll be watching for a breakout of this formation. Now, one last one I want to mention that I've been watching for a while as well, kind of goes along with the metaverse and NFT plays, and that is Chiliz, CHZ. Now, this one, is a metaverse play that didn't necessarily, well, it did see a pop initially here. We saw a nice spike in price with the rest of the NFTs, but since then it has kind of cooled down a little bit. Hasn't seen too much news or too much price action. Rather, it actually has seen some positive news. They recently partnered with Robert Kraft and the New England Patriots, their first NFL partnership. I've talked about Chiliz before, but they're basically like a fan loyalty token. So, sports fans in Europe have been using the token to, vote on various things for their football clubs like Juventus, Paris Saint-Germain, Barcelona, and many others. And now it's starting to spread into North America. And I think that, if you combine that that metaverse concept with a token like Chiliz, you could see how this could be applicable in the metaverse. I could see CJ and I getting together tonight to watch the Bulls game, and we can use our Chiliz tokens to get better seats in the metaverse or something like that, or I don't know, anything like that. I could definitely see there being some genuine utility for a token like Chiliz that's partnered with various professional sports teams. Also, technically, it's holding up above this 20-period smooth moving average. To me, that's a positive sign. It's acting as support. And, when you compare it with assets like Sand, like Mana, like even Engine, other NFTs, it is definitely a laggard in the space, but has some solid utility, made solid partnerships. So I think it's definitely worth a look if we get a nice, perhaps bullish engulfing candle here, a bounce from this smooth moving average following these couple of doji candles, and a slight uptick in bullish volume here. So few dojis of the day to look at. I'll be watching all three of those as we enter the holiday week here. But that's all I got. Anything as we close up here, CJ?
Yeah, one thing, then we'll wrap it up because we do have a member webinar that we will be doing after that for you guys. I just want to go to ADA because tough break last night. They were removed from eToro. Not only ADA, but Tron was as well for regulatory concerns. Charles should have never bought that jet. But yeah, they're getting looked into for regular, or they were delisted from eToro for regulatory concerns. So just very oversold in terms of TA and critical levels. I'd watch for the 150 level. That's been hit quite a few times. But right now, I mean, there is pretty sufficient support at about 160. I think ADA needs to find a little bit of stability with the overall market. If we go back onto a risk-on environment, in the downside, obviously ADA is going to be one of those more weaker, vulnerable targets, and potentially slower to rally on the upside. So, I mean, that was a tough fundamental break for ADA last night and Tron. But overall, that's all I've got for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Happy Thanksgiving. I hope you have a wonderful time with your family, wherever you are in the world. But if you'd like to get more of these dojis of the day on a daily basis, remember this was a special episode. You can check out the link below at marketrebellion.com/try crypto. And you can try the first week for just $7. We have a pro charting platform, a full-on crypto trading education curriculum where we go through all of this TA and show you guys how to perform it for yourselves. So we really appreciate that. But Monty, I'll leave it with you for the final word, sir.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving tomorrow. Enjoy your day off. Get away from the screens for a little bit. It'll be good for your mental health. But also, like CJ said, we'll be doing a webinar today at 11:30 Central. Feel free to drop in, ask us any questions that you have before this holiday week. I'm sure you guys have plenty. You guys always have some great questions. So really looking forward to that. Again, it'll be 11:30 Central, and you can join it at marketrebellion.com/try crypto. But thank you guys so much for watching. It's been a pleasure as always. We'll see you at the webinar. Have a great rest of your day.